Hello, and welcome to episode 1482 of The Sleeper and the Bust. My name is Paul Sporer, and today we're going to find out what this sound is.
You also have to acknowledge the fact that once you have one PED suspension, you could get another, right?
Definitely get another.
And that would
tries to get around it.
Yeah, that would be a lifetime ban, right? So and I'm not saying I think he would do that.
I'm not saying I think he would do that. You are hearing the voice of one Justin Mason, who joins me today. And Joe Orrico was on that show when Justin didn't call it. Again, you didn't say he was going to do that, but you pointed out that be careful with somebody like Jurickson Profar, a one-time suspendee, because it could come around again. Of course, we all said, who would be that stupid? And about a week later, we found out who exactly is that stupid. Justin, nice call there. And I know it's not something you're happy about being right about.
No, I don't want to be right about that. I want, but...
Let's give it out that Profar cooked again.
Yeah.
Bucks staring down a $1.62 ban and just threw everything away. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just, you have to, I don't think we mention these things enough, right?
I agree.
Where, a guy comes back off a suspension, it's oh, he's back now, so he's going to be fine. No, he's not necessarily, because if you're dumb enough to do it once, you're dumb enough to do it twice. And take that from someone who has done dumb things his entire life.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Let's, Joe, I'm going to spec on some things here. So this is the speculation zone. And you let me know if you think this has any merit here. Again, speculation zone, speculation zone. The fact that Profar went back to it leads me to believe, perhaps falsely, that maybe he's been doing it more than what we just saw with him getting caught, and that he got away with it so much that this was the first time that he was popped, that he's like, I can get back onto it because I've been getting away with it for, X number of years. I only got caught once. Is there any potential merit to that? Again, I can't prove it. That's just something that I thought when I saw that he went right back to it.
He's a hard guy when you look at the course of his career because he's alternated really good and really terrible seasons. So one could come to the conclusion of maybe he is juicing before the really good seasons, and then the next year he follows it up with a bit of a poor year because the muscle starts to degrade or whatever, and thinks he needs to get back on the PEDs. If you look from 2018 onward, the WRC pluses, it's like Aaron Nola on the hitter side: 107, 90, 113, 87, 110, 78, and then 139. Before 2024, I don't think there's any doubt. Obviously, he got popped, but just seeing the improvements that he had, especially in terms of the exit velocities, on average, it jumped up 5 miles an hour. It was a glaring red flag. But interestingly, though, in 2025, when he returned, you started to see the exit velocities come down a couple points on average, and the max exit velocity. The hard hit rate came down a couple points. So maybe Profar, after that big year, gets off the PEDs for a few months, starts to see the performance isn't what it was the year prior, and thinks maybe I need to start juicing again. He's still had a decent year.
Right.
Last year when he came back, he was still decent.
And he paced to 28 homers. And that's why I'm torn because, looking at 24 and his StatCast data makes you think that Profar definitely, he did cheat that year because he got caught, right? We know that. And we saw the influence of it in the numbers. And it's not anywhere else in his profile. And that takes away merit from my idea that maybe he's been doing it multiple years and thought, I can get back on this because I've gotten away with it before. But, Justin, I'm just curious, I guess you just talked about it, though. You said people can just be stupid. You can just make stupid decisions. And maybe it was just pure hubris here. And there's no crazy conspiracies to figure out here with Jurickson Profar. Maybe he just had the hubris to think, no, I can get away with this. I'll just switch this. I'm curious to see if it's going to be the same thing that he got popped for too, because I think that will add to the discussion points.
I mean, I always want to give people somewhat, some credit. There's always a little bit of shadow of a doubt when a guy tests positive for something. Just because, they're taking all these supplements. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are legal. We've heard with certain situations where I thought this was okay. Apparently, it's not. We're always a little skeptical of it, but whatever. At the same time, you go, okay, you've been punished. You lost half a season. You should have learned your lesson, right?
And I can give a guy a pass on that. I don't forget, but I'm okay, I'm not going to bring it up every time.
They have an agency you can send your supplements to where they can test them and go, nope, this has a banned substance, right?
There's no excuse. There's
no excuse for a second one. There really isn't. There's really no excuse for a first one.
There's no excuse for first. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is bad. This is, facing a full year. I don't know if anyone's going to touch him after that. He'll be 34 and just, the big red scarlet S on his chest that he deserves to wear. I mean, you're a moron on this one, man. Really disappointed in Profar.
What an odd career he's had,
Yep.
right? Top prospect and all in
prospect.
baseball. Like, the Rangers wouldn't trade him for Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was going to be too good. He never materialized into the prospect we thought he would. Has a late, career kind of surge, and then pop for PEDs twice in like a year. Like,
twice.
Really, I mean,
could have gotten away with the one. And what I mean by get away, it wouldn't have spoiled his legacy. It still would have been part of the story.
Yeah.
But I felt like he had enough goodwill to kind of get it to where, again, it wasn't going to be brought up every time he hit a home run or he cheated for that. I think we even saw that last year. He took some ribbing from people, which is understandable, but it wasn't the story every time Profar did something. Now, that's all he's known for. So we had to start with that hitter there, but now we are getting into pitchers. Episode 1 of what could be 50. Who knows? But we're going to get into the starting pitcher rankings. The way I'm going to do it is I am going to follow the ADP at the beginning here for sure. But we're also not going to individually talk about everyone at the very top end, right? Like, we don't all need to break down Skubal, Skenes, and Crochet one by one. They're all great. So we're going to be a little bit more on some broad strategy questions with early pitchers before we get into the second and third tiers, where, guys, I got to be honest, right after we get through these top 3, the questions really start to come in. Maybe quicker than I think they should for guys that are going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 among starters. But let's start with the first round kings, which of course are the aforementioned Tarik Skubal, Paul Skenes, and Garrett Crochet. I want to start with an initial question there. Do you have an overarching pitching plan that you follow in standard 5x5 waiver wire leagues? So we're out of draft champion season. Doesn't mean we won't discuss anything in that context the rest of the way. But we've transitioned into waiver leagues now. So injured guys, I think, are more back on the table for all 3 of us, Joe. But do you have a pitching philosophy? Or are you more freewheeling? You'll pick a plan each time? Like, how do you approach pitching in 5x5s?
So generally, we're talking 15 teamers more often than not with the leagues that we play in. I want to have usually 4 starting pitchers in the first 15 rounds. It's not always the way it works out for me, and it does vary a little bit depending on the quality of the arms that I'm getting and also where you are in the draft. Because if I'm picking at the back end of the draft, which I am in TGFBI, I like the names that are available to me there in the first and the third round. I started with Garrett Crochet in the first, and I took Chris Sale in the third round, just because I think at those particular points of the draft, they were the best players available. And that's kind of how I want to go about it for the first few rounds. Pitchers, hitters, give me the best player available for the first 30, 40, 50 picks. I don't want to worry so much about team build. And if I'm at the back end of the first round there, Crochet is screaming at you if you're in the back 5 picks of the first round and he hasn't been taken yet. If you are in that early portion of the draft, then it's a little bit different. The hitters are a lot stronger. The guys that come back to you in the second tend to be closers, unless you want to push up. Maybe, you could take a Hunter Greene at the beginning of the third, or you could take maybe a Chris Sanchez, but he's usually gone by the second. So it really does vary a little bit depending on where you are in the draft. Generally speaking, I want 4 of them in the first 15 rounds, but now, like for TGFBI, for example, I have Crochet and I have Sale in the first 4 rounds. So I'll take my foot off the gas there a little bit, and I'll fill out the hitting for the next few rounds. If I had a lower quality SP1 and SP2, I'd probably want to take the 3 and 4 a little bit sooner. But it does really vary by draft and just where my KDS ends up in a given room.
And I think that makes sense, and I think Justin will have a similar answer there. So I will ask Justin, do you set your KDS in any way to execute a pitching plan, or are you pretty freewheeling like Joe, where you're saying, hey, I'll land where I land, and my plan will come together once I know that spot? How do you approach pitching in 5x5s?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the league and format a little bit. So, but I tend to say, like, hey, I want one of the top tier hitters early, and then I'll address pitching in the second or third round. Or if I can't get one of those, like I did in TGFBI, I'm going to try to get myself towards kind of the middle to back end. Like I wanted 11, and I got 11 in TGFBI, and then all 3 of the starting pitchers were gone by pick 11. So
that was rude.
Yeah, kind of sucked. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very similar to Joe. I look at my first 10 rounds, and I want to have 2 to 3 starters out of that first 10 rounds. Especially some guys, at least one guy who's got some upside, and then one guy who's got a pretty, safe floor for me. Typically it's usually the first guy I'm going to take is going to have that safe floor, and then maybe I'll take a little bit more risk with my second guy. I often like to get two starters in the first 5 rounds, just because I think those guys have a much better track record when it comes to busts. So
yeah, I think that's fair, and we're going to get into some of that. What has been termed to me the SP dead zone. I heard Chris Towers call it that, and I like that. It's been a concept I've been trying to come up with a name for that I've talked about. I've read it in the Baseball Forecaster, where those non-aces but very early guys can be dangerous. But let's stay here with the top guys. It seems like in your first answer there, both of you made it clear that you're open to a first-round starter if it falls that way. So instead of asking you that, I want to ask Joe first. Any formats where you won't take a first-round starter?
As a hard line, not really. Like my home league is a head-to-head 10-team league, and just because it's situational too. I know that I focus on fantasy a lot more than the other guys in my home league, so I can kind of wait a little bit more on pitching. But I think generally speaking, if you are in a shallower format, you can wait a little bit longer on the pitching, focus on the hitting first. You're going to get so many names that pop up on the waiver wire. There's a lot of 8 and 10 team league players, and they're not discussed a lot. We usually focus on 12s and 15s, but a lot of casual people in those shallow formats. If you're double tapping pitchers in the first and second round in a 10 team league, it can work out for you, but I think you're giving up a lot of hitting value if you're doing it in a shallower format. Again, there's no hard line. Like if the value's there in the second round and Crochet's there in a 10 team league, I'm fine with it, but I think that you can wait a little bit more in those shallow formats.
I'm guessing you play it similarly, Justin, where in those shallower formats, you want more high upside, high risk pitching. So you're going to take that bankable hitting out front and probably not go for a first round starter. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it'd be hard for me in a 10 team to take a first round pitcher, especially because I know one of those guys will probably be there in the second.
Right.
And more likely than not, I won't even take a starter in the first 3-4 rounds.
Same in those shallow formats.
Yeah, in those 10 teams. Even a 12 team, like for instance, I have the Beat Justin Mason League, which you can find over on NFBC.
It's not full?
I literally just got set up today.
Because I've been playing some different formats, and I might dip into a 12 team, bro.
Oh, you should dip into that one, and we could do a live stream together.
I know, I'm saying, because I'm not going to do a bunch. I don't think I'm going to ask for a beat Paul Sporer. So maybe I just join yours. I did some cut line. I got some DC. I'm trying to diversify the portfolio a little bit. And I know cut line, that's not going to help me with like analysis in season because there is no in season play there. But I want to have my portfolio a little bit mixed up in terms of formats instead of just the 15s, so I can better understand the waiver wires too. So
I dropped the link in the Discord today, so you can find it there, and then I will tweet it out later today. Also, we're going to be setting up the 13 run pool for those who are interested.
I cannot wait for that.
That was a lot of fun. So we may actually even do a couple of them because people really, really like that. So that'll be in the Discord as well. So
stay tuned for that. All right, staying with the top 3 guys here, let's just go ahead and get your order then, Justin. Skubal, Skenes, Crochet. Do you have a hard order? You got to give me one even if you don't have a hard order.
It's Skubal, Crochet, Skenes for me.
Okay, and is that based on team context?
Yeah, that it is. I mean, I think Skubal is the number one. I think he is just the guy. And then I think the difference between the Red Sox and the Pirates, though, the Pirates are getting better. I don't think they're going to be good.
But the Red Sox are awesome.
Yeah, the Red Sox are really good. So that is my order. Like I said, had I had the opportunity, I would have taken Crochet at pick 11.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Like you said, he was not available to you. Joe, what's your order?
Yeah, it would be Skubal, Crochet, and Skenes. And the team context does come into play a little bit, but I mean, Crochet was just about as good as Skenes was last year, if not even maybe a little bit better. I know that might be controversial, but he had him beating the strikeouts. He had him beating Sierra. He had him beating XFIP by half a run. The ERA is what stands out with Skenes, but as a whole picture, maybe he was slightly better than Crochet, but I think it's a coin toss essentially between them. And even honestly, might get myself in trouble, I think Chris Sanchez belongs pretty close in that group as well if you look at what he did last year below the surface.
I thought you were going to go a different route with it. I don't disagree with that, and that's going to take us into Cristopher Sánchez. But what I thought you were going to say is that you could see somebody maybe going Crochet or Skenes above Skubal. And I, even as the Tigers fan, I can see that. I'm not doing it. Skubal is my number one. But I'm not ripping somebody's arm off if they're talking Crochet number one or even Skenes. I think it's an easier case to make with Crochet just because the team context is richer. But even if you went Skenes number one, I wouldn't beat you up. It's Skubal for me, though. All right, let's go to that Cristopher Sánchez, Joe, and I'll keep it with you then. These are our should-be aces because these are the guys that people are still drafting very highly, and they're supposed to give you that full bankable elite season. I love Sánchez. I think we were pretty, early on him. We weren't the only ones, but there was a group of folks before he really broke through, especially in 24, that were saying, hey, this guy's got something, and then took another big step last year to have that super ace season that you were talking about, Joe. But I wonder, isn't this a little bit of a dodgy record, or maybe just not deep enough track record for the number 4 overall starter to have just one true ace season and then another really good one in 2024 when he had a 3.32 ERA but a 1.24 WHIP and just a 7.6 K9, which is actually 20% K rate because we got to use K rates. So where are you at with Sánchez there with the rather light track record?
I understand it, and I think it just is the nature of the position at this point because Yamamoto, the other guy that's in that kind of range, not the longest track record himself, albeit
less,
his height,
less of a major MLB track record.
Yeah, Gilbert has a couple years, but also last year wasn't amazing. Woo's got the injury stuff. None of these guys that are going in that like SP4 to 6 or 7, 8, even like the SP10 range, none of them feel like sure things. And even Chris Sánchez, despite him not being a sure thing, because there is no such thing really, he feels really close to it with his command, with the team behind him, with the volume over the last 2 seasons. I feel like you can project close to 200 innings with a good strikeout rate, with a low walk rate. Like that whip feels really safe. He does feel to me in a group of guys that all come with risk as kind of the safest option with more upside mixed in as well, because who's to say that Chris Sánchez couldn't even unlock a slightly higher level in terms of the strikeout rate? He went from 20 to 26. Maybe he goes to 30. I'm not expecting it, but it's possible that he continues to improve here. So I feel like he is pretty firmly the number 4 guy for me. And if somebody wanted to go out there and make a case that it should be a big 4, I wouldn't give them a huge fight on it. Now, I think maybe he's a slight step below, but if you look at the Sierra, which I know we all like to look at, his was a slight bit better than Skenes. His xFIP was better. The whip was a little bit worse. The walk rate was the same. They're comparable. I think that you could make a case for a big 4 this year instead of a big 3.
I was making the case as a potential big 4, but it was actually with Yamamoto that I was squeezing in there. And then he had his playoff track record pop off there, and I was like, see, I told y'all. But I really haven't been pushing for that as much during draft season. It was more like I wanted Yamamoto to get his shine. The playoffs got him his shine, and now he is there at that 4 or 5 area. Justin, when you took Yamamoto, was Sánchez available?
He was, and let's
go ahead and talk about your matchup there between those two.
I think the Dodgers are so damn good. I want a piece of the Dodgers wherever I can get it, as much as I'm a Giants fan, and I hate that.
You're trying to win, though.
I'm trying to win fantasy leagues, and we were talking before we started recording about like Joe being a little bit afraid of Yamamoto given the workload, but like he could throw 140 innings this year, and Yamamoto could register like 14 wins in 130 innings. Like the Dodgers are just so damn good that I'm gonna take the shots whenever I can. And like this feels like a year, in spite of the fact that Dodgers are coming off of a 2-peat, going for a 3-peat, that a lot of their players are insanely cheap this year. Like you're getting discounts on what I feel is Kyle Tucker, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, Glasnow, Blake Snell. And so like this is a great year to just roster a bunch of Dodgers because I think they're gonna be the best team in baseball.
And then they're cheap pitchers like your Justin Robleskis. I know Gavin Stone actually had a setback. I was kind of pairing those two together
Emmett
for a
Sheehan
bit. Emmett Sheehan, I love, Yep. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the Dodgers are relatively affordable for how amazing they are.
It's insane because I mean, you remember, Joe's not old enough to remember this, but remember when the Yankees were actually good and like a dynasty and stuff? Like you'd go into a fantasy league and there would be a Yankee tax. Like, would pay, $4, $5, $6 more on Yankee for any Yankee because they were a Yankee, and we don't get that with the Dodgers this year.
Yep.
And I'm taking advantage of it. And so Yamamoto is my number 4, but I can totally make that argument that Chris
made Joe leave.
Yeah, Joe quit the podcast. For those watching right now, so I'm not going to. He's back. I'm not even going to let him back onto the show. I think you can make the argument that like there, instead of there being a big three, that there really should be a big five.
Yeah, and then put both of them in there. I can get behind that too. Again, I think it would just come down to the track record, and then people will say, "Well, what about Skenes?" It's like, well, the 2 years he's in has been amazing, right?
I'll make the argument right now for Cristopher Sánchez and Yamamoto,
Okay.
but more Cristopher Sánchez. Is we said like after the big three, there's red flags. Aren't there kind of red flags with the big three too? Garrett Crochet and Skubal have both had arm issues.
That's every pitcher, though. There's no pitcher that doesn't have something you can bring up.
But like, why is that weighed more than like Cristopher Sánchez, quote unquote, lack of track record when he's done it for 2 years? So
I don't think it is. I just think that they've been better.
Oh, I agree. But
that's all. I mean, no, I think you make a good point that like, yeah, don't mistake Skubal, Skenes, Crochet being in the top tier for flawless, can't poke a hole in them. That's the point you're making. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's
and so then if you wanted to bring in on the back end there Sánchez and Yamamoto with their flaws, because Joe said it at the very outset, it's the world we live in now. You don't get guys with 4 or 5 years of elite production at the top now, 10 guys deep. That's just not how our baseball game runs anymore. So you got to take guys that maybe don't have as deep of track records, and you're betting on the skill. I think that's just where we're at right now. And Sánchez, Yamamoto show that as the 4-5 because they each only have one elite year under their belts. Let's go over to Logan Gilbert, who I think did shatter the illusion of the myth of safe innings last year, right? Dropping just 133 last year after all those years with the super healthy track record. And that's just the difficult part, right? Because you would look at him and say, this guy's bankable. And he wasn't. He broke because that's what pitchers do. But he was still very good. And the thing that keeps driving Gilbert is the whip. And that's why I underscore that he is the whip god here. Because the ERA has actually never been below 320. Now, that's just an arbitrary number that he hasn't been below. But usually our aces have a sub-3 ERA season in there somewhere, Joe. Even though we haven't seen it from Gilbert yet. One, do you think it's on the table? And two, even if it isn't, is the whip and general expectation of volume, even if it wasn't there last year, is that enough to keep Gilbert as a firm fantasy ace?
Yeah, I have him at 6 right now. I have him behind the big 5, like in order of ADP. Nothing groundbreaking there. Mm-hmm. The whip, the ERA is interesting, but it also comes with really, really good whips, which tend to get overlooked. And what he did last year in terms of the strikeouts was something we've never seen before. 32% strikeout rate with the good ballpark. The stuff was not as good last year as a whole, and the last 2 years it's been 96. So he doesn't have like the crazy stuff like a Sánchez would, but he's got the good ballpark. I think that he honestly, big 3, big 4, big 5. He's not in that same group. We're not making it a big 6, obviously, but Gilbert could return like SP1 overall type of numbers if he's able to maintain a 30+% strikeout rate with his whips. I think the talent could easily pop a sub-3 ERA season, even 2.4, 2.5 type of ERA in the right year with what is probably going to be decent volume. Like, even though he got hurt last year, it was still 25 starts, 130 innings is kind of a baseline for a lot of guys. And that was him in a down season. So I think we can expect a rebound to the 170, 180 range. But I think that he is really...
Sorry to interrupt you, Joe. If not all the way back up to 180 above. 186, 191, and 209 for Gilbert the 3 years before. If Justin tells us that his projections have him at 187 this year, I don't think that's crazy just because he was injured last year. Go ahead, Joe.
No, that's pretty much it for me. Like, I think that he does feel relatively safe despite the fact that he was hurt last year, just from all the things I've talked about, the volume, the production when he is healthy. Like, his down year was a 3.44 ERA. And yes, the great seasons have only been 3.20, but I do think that given his talent, we can see some peak years coming in the next couple of years, especially in that park.
You know what feeds into a safety for me, and for any pitcher like this, because I think it's the same thing with Sánchez, is control, right? When they have a minuscule walk rate, that makes me feel a lot safer than obviously like the stud strikeout guy who maybe doesn't always know where it's going. Justin, I want to pose a different question to you with Gilbert, though, because I do have one little concern here, and it is the 3-year home run rate. 1.4 in 2 of them last year and 2023, and then 1.1 in the year in between. 1.1 and above for a should-be ace, that's a little dicey, and I think that's probably why his ERA floor has been higher for Gilbert. Does that give you any concerns going into his age 29 season here?
It gives me a little concern because we did see it like when he returned from the injury, he had like a 1.52 or 1.55 homer per nine. And that scares me because like I'm not sure that Logan Gilbert is healthy. And that is the reason for me that, like I'm not drafting Logan Gilbert where he is. I love the dude. He was my number 2 starting pitcher before he got hurt last year, right?
That was your guy.
That was my dude. He was the guy I was saying, everybody, hey, this is about as safe as you can come. But the reason we say about as safe is because there's no pitcher that's going to be completely safe. And I just can't pull the trigger where he's going. Like, there's just too many other guys. Like, I'd rather have, and this is going to sound weird for people who've been listening to the podcast for any number of times. I'd rather have Bryan Woo.
I knew you were going to say that.
His teammate, who because he threw the innings last year. Like, he was healthy. And I just, now I'm not necessarily like jumping all over Bryan Woo, like either, but like, if I'm going to take one of the two.
Well, didn't he have the issue too with the pec? I know he pitched in the playoffs, so it was.
Well, I mean, but I'm more worried about the previous elbow injuries, right? These guys who have elbow issues and then don't get them surgically repaired scare the crap out of me. And I don't draft them because I do think I think it's a ticking time bomb, just like you were making the noise.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a concern to have there. It is funny though, because people would, if they listened last year, to hear you go Woo over Gilbert, like, did you kill Justin and replace him with somebody who doesn't even know the right code to say to emulate Justin? Because nobody would say that. But no, I understand that it has changed for you with those two. We're going to get to Woo in a moment. I want to go to Hunter Brown first, and I'm going to stay with you, Justin. He's had a Sanchezian evolution with the 2 full seasons in a row and then the 1 elite one. So he was pretty good in 24. Like, both of them kind of, I like to call that a platform season. They kind of jumped up a level. They showed that they had some real solid skills and that they could be the ace, and then both of them did it last year. Brown isn't quite getting as much love as Sanchez, but he's hardly being forgotten there as Houston's ace. Where do you come out with Hunter Brown this year, Justin? Because, again, he's going to be a little bit cheaper than those other guys. He's done it. Houston's still pretty good. Are you in on Brown as an ace?
I think Brown is an ace. I think the stuff is really, really good. Yes, he doesn't have the best, control and command every start to start, but he's a horse. I think he's going to throw like 190 really, really good innings. And I could see a world where the strikeout rate continues to improve. He plays on a good team in Houston. I don't know that there's any real. There's some people who are expressing in the industry concerns on Hunter Brown. I don't really get them personally. I think this guy is just a horse, and he's my number 6 starting pitcher.
Yeah, I don't really share those concerns either with Brown, Joe. I'm a huge Hunter Brown fan, and I got him right there in lockstep with Sanchez, Gilbert, and Yamamoto. Like, that's another quartet for me. After the top 3 in my brain, I go Sanchez, Yamamoto, Gilbert, Brown, and throw Woo in there too. Sorry. So then that next 5 for me becomes a grouping. I think Brown is every bit as good as these other guys. Do you have him a cut below or right there with him?
I have him at 9. I have him a couple
so
spots
we'll cut below, but you're not burying him. So tell us how you're feeling.
Yeah, I'd still be fine with him as an ace. The only thing that gets him a little bit lower is just the swinging strike rate. That's pretty much what it comes down to, and just the possibility that he's a 23, 24% strikeout rate guy. I don't think it's necessarily likely, but he's at 10, 11% swinging strike rate, where I feel more confident in the strikeouts I'm going to get from the rest of that top tier. The other thing that's more of a soft factor is I don't think Houston is as good as they've been the last couple of years, and Hader potentially being hurt might not cost them a ton of wins, but I don't know.
Every win matters though, right? Like when we have so few for guys, losing
Abreu
2.
Every year when I do projections, like if I adjust someone by 1 or 2 wins, it rockets their price.
Right. So like even that's a good point to bring up though, Joe, because if Hunter Brown is, 12 instead of 14 or whatever on the Dubs, that can be a big difference and enough of a soft factor to go to a Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, I think the Astros are not quite as good as they've been as a whole, this year as opposed to the last few seasons. That dynasty is kind of at the tail end at this point.
Sure.
And if Hader's hurt, I think Bryan Abreu is a really good alternative and probably wouldn't miss much of a beat. But it's just, it's like you said, one of those soft factors. If I'm comparing him to the other guys I like in the range, the Sales, the Gilberts, that's kind of one small thing for me.
And if I can add something, sorry. Go
No, I
ahead.
was just saying, like the swinging strike rate and the team context. That's what gets him a notch below.
And if I can add to the Abreu hater thing, it's not even about Abreu, like you said. I think he can handle the ninth quite well, but it lessens the bridge. So now the starter, now Brown has a bigger burden. Can he go an extra inning so that you're not relying on Steven Okert, Bennett Sousa, Enyel de los Santos, Jaden Murray? Who the hell are these players?
Congress.
They're congressmen, obviously. So no, those are good points to bring up, and that's why you have Brown down at 9. I do still like him a couple takes higher, but those soft factors make sense. And the swinging strike rate, Justin and I both see more. Like he has been kind of hovering around 10, 11. I think he's got the stuff to be better because he's always been a little bit further from his strikeout rate than his swinging strike rate would suggest. Go ahead, Justin.
The Self Plus is really good on Hunter Brown. He's got 4 pitches over 100, including a 112 on the fastball and a 115 on the sinker. Like I'm not worried
That's why I
about
think he can go up.
I do
think he
too.
can push that swinging strike up to make his strikeout rate feel more bankable. All right, let's go to Woo. We will start with Joe because Justin gave some initial thoughts on him that he's more in this year than he has been because he did stay mostly healthy. He made his 30 turns. It was unfortunately spoiled a little bit at the end because he didn't get to pitch much in the playoffs when Seattle needed him most. Fantasy folks, our season was done. Well, not Joe's. He was busy winning a postseason contest, so I don't want to say that. But the regular fantasy season was done, so maybe people don't remember that as much. But he did end the season a little bit nicked up, pitching, inconsistently in the playoffs there, but just an unbelievable season that showed that he could take the 30 turns. And I know for a lot of people, especially, I give Justin a really hard time about his injury, avoidance. But once a guy shows it, he's open. Like, okay, you get the stamp. You've done the 30. I've seen it. I can believe it more. And that's what Woo did. Joe, do you think he's got another 30 starts in him for Bryan Woo? Because I think that's what you need when you're drafting. Maybe not need, but that's what you're really wanting when you're paying the premium now on Woo.
Yeah, I really like him, but I do worry, I think, a little bit more than you guys do about the injury possibility. It was forearm inflammation in 2023. It was forearm inflammation in 2024. Last year, he stayed healthy until the end of the year, and then it was pec tightness. Came back in the playoffs and then didn't look very good in the playoffs.
No,
the Blue Jays
shaky.
did get to him. Now it's 4 innings. Don't read too much into that. Over 2 appearances, it's not much you can read from that, but it's enough to push him down a little bit for me. He's at 11. I have him at 11, so it's not really down. He'd still be an SP1, but I don't like him more than some of the other guys we've talked about today. Like, of all the guys we've talked about today so far, he's the lowest for me. I just worry a little bit about the injury possibility popping back up. And, throwing an entire healthy season definitely alleviates some of those concerns, but just ending it not healthy, it does worry me just a touch. I'd still take him as an SP1, but I wouldn't have that warm, fuzzy feeling about it as I would have, if we talked in, August of last year.
Right, because that's when he was peaking. Things were going super well. Justin, when he threw 121 innings the year before, Bryan Woo put up a 289 and 090 whip, right? So you didn't miss out too much even when he wasn't pitching. I can't say that even if he throws 120, he's going to do those numbers again because those are pretty exquisite. But do you feel pretty good, to the best that you can, that even if Woo misses time, that you're still going to be getting triple-digit innings of quality work? Like, do you believe in his work when healthy enough that you would still take him even with the injury risk looming overhead for Woo?
I think I would take him in a scenario where I was already had an ace on my roster.
So as your second and you're stacking pitching type of thing?
Or I'm about to take another one, right? Like if I go Woo, Logan Webb, I'm feeling great.
Right. I like the double dip combo there. That does make sense to me.
I want someone who I feel really good about the volume, because the problem with a guy like Woo is if these elbow issues do come back, and like I said, I don't like these guys typically who have had real elbow issues and then never gotten addressed, right?
Yeah.
So like the problem is, like, he could throw 6 innings and that's when it happens. You just don't know when it happens, right? Like, and so like I would, if I was going to take Woo, and I am open to it this year, like I haven't been in years past, I would definitely double tap a starter somewhere, right? Like I'm, even like a Hunter Brown and Woo, right? If I'm on like the 3-4 turn or something like that, and both of those guys are available, like I'll do something like that. But for the most part, I'm probably not going to end up with Woo because it's going to be a really, really hard scenario to make that work.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. And people that are like lurking around Woo and maybe want to go for somebody who's done it with a little bit more of a track record, which is difficult to find in this area, but I can understand it. Maybe you pivot to this guy, but then you're taking a 37-year-old. Chris Sale, I want to stay with you on this one, Justin. We all knew that betting on him to repeat the Cy Young would be a bad idea. You got to bring some numbers down from that, namely in the volume. And he did go from 178 to 126 innings. But he was basically the same Cy Young pitcher. 258 ERA, 107 whip, was barely off of the 238, 101 that he put up the year before for Chris Sale. The simple fact is he is unbelievably elite these last 2 years, but he's 37. So how do you balance the two, Justin? And answer Sale first, but then a philosophical question. Where are you on the jumping off a year too early, even at the risk of being wrong, just because you don't want to be caught holding the bag on somebody who has the red flags of a Sale, which is all of his injury track record and age 37. So Sale first, and then we'll talk the philosophical.
I mean, I want to point out that like a lot of Sale's injury track record
has been weird.
It's been weird stuff. Like, didn't he like fall off a car or something, like, or fall off a bike?
Fall off a bike. He got hit. Yeah. Remember when he got blasted in the hand by a comebacker that broke his shit? So yeah.
So like
self-inflicted wounds, I think, over the year.
Like now he does it for Tommy John on his ledger, and he was not able to pitch in the postseason last year, right? Yeah. And with a back issue. Right. So all those things being said, I still think Chris Sale is a really, really good pitcher. But I want to do something very similar to what I just talked about with Woo, right? And I don't want I don't want it to be Woo and Sale. Let's be clear there,
that would be a little scary.
It should not be Sale and Woo or Sale and deGrom or Sale and Ragans, right? It should be like a Sale and Logan Webb. It should be a Sale and Paul Skenes in the first, right? Like these guys that I feel are really, really good workhorse guys. And then you add in the upside of Sale and go, okay, now I've got a stacked rotation. Because if something happens, then I still have a pretty damn good start of my rotation, right? So that being said, I got no problem. Like I'm literally on deck right now, and in TGFBI, and I'm gonna take a closer here, but had one of those two guys or both of those guys that I was thinking about taking gone already, Chris Sale would have been my pick in the third round. So
to go with your Yamamoto, right?
Yeah, to go with Yamamoto. So like I've got like the stable ace, and then I'm adding in another high upside guy in Chris Sale. So I've got no problem with that kind of pick.
Joe, where do you come out on that philosophical debate of being a year too early and staying away from a guy because you think he could blow up, and that way you're not caught holding the bag versus, hey, Chris Sale's been elite, I'll take the elite guy, and if I get caught holding the bag, big deal. Where do you balance that? Or how do you balance that, rather?
I think with pitchers, we're going to get caught holding so many bags anyway with injuries that I don't mind the age factor.
Just take the talent then?
In general, if it's like a position player, then I'd be more willing if a guy is 37, 38 years old coming off of a big year, like the Freddie Freeman type of question. Right. You want to get out the year early. I'm fine with going either way, depending on, and I know that's a total cop-out, but I don't really have a hard line position on it. I'm fine with it if it fits your team build. If you're in a position where Freddie Freeman works for you, then I'm fine with it, even if there is some cliff factor. And I think it's the same thing with Chris Sale. Like when he returned last year, his final I think it was 5 starts when he returned, and they were like peak Sale type of stuff. Now he couldn't pitch in the playoffs, which is a little bit of a concern, but at least it wasn't an arm injury, it was the back. I still trust him. I took him in TGFBI in the third round. He's my second starting pitcher. As I mentioned earlier, it's Crochet and then it's Sale. So I'm kind of
I forgot that you said that.
No, it's all good. We've talked about so much stuff, but I like him as a 2 more than a 1, which I think one of you guys said already about Sale, or you said it about one of the guys here.
And Justin agrees that he would, if he took Woo or Sale, he's got to either have a second guy already, or he's going to get that second guy immediately after. He's going to cushion both of them with another arm there in hopes that at least one of them stays super healthy and has a great season.
The age doesn't worry me here with him.
Okay, I think I agree with that, right? Because he's so good.
Yeah, like his stuff, since we've started tracking stuff, last year was the best of his career. You're still looking at 105 location plus, 106 pitching plus. The strikeout to walks are still good. He's not allowing a lot of he checks all the boxes. Like, yes, being 36 years old, about to be 37, on what seems to be a cursed Atlanta Braves.
Oh my God, that's maybe the scariest part is that he's on that haunted ass team. Jeez.
But I'm okay with him as an SP2. SP1, I get a little nervous. SP2, I'm okay with it.
Yep, I think I definitely see the outlook there with Sale. back him up, either have somebody already or back him up with another guy immediately. All right, this next guy I think is going to be a little bit scarier for everyone because he does not have any real track record. A full season, whenever I say full season, that's a minimum of 162 innings because that means you qualify for the ERA title. You have to have 1 inning per team game, which is almost always going to be 162. Hunter Greene has insane talent and 0 full seasons, Justin. Where does that put him for you? Is he somebody that you can...
Hard no.
I thought so. I thought so.
He has never put together a full season, pitches in Cincinnati. I still think there are command issues at times. Yes,
the homers came back last year.
Yeah,
he just outran them.
Yeah, the stuff is unreal. I understand it. I think people are dreaming on, hey, is this the year he puts together 150?
Well, he has one 150 season. It was 2024.
Or yeah,
we're hoping if he can do it again.
Yeah, so I just don't buy it. I don't it's crazy to me to see these projections that hit like 160, 180, like it just I don't know how you project him for more than like 135. And it'll be a good 135 as long as the homers don't crush him. But I just can't do it personally. And if you do it, you have to do the volume play with your next days, right? It's got to be Logan Webb. It's got to be Framber Valdez. It's got to be one of these guys.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. That was my fault entirely.
I just think it has to be one of these guys that you have to like kind of pair with someone who is a less volatile profile.
And that is my whole point about this tier, because this is now the 3rd guy in a row that you said I got to get another guy. And I agree with you, but
this
that's
is why
my whole point.
Skip almost all of these guys. Like
this is why I said should be aces, because I'm like, this is not how you usually treat an ace. Yeah. Usually you get to take a little breather after you take an ace and maybe draft 2 hitters in a row or a closer and a hitter. But with a lot of these guys, you got to go right back to the well, which can be a fine strategy. But
it's a while before you find a lot of like the really good like innings guys, at least, right? Like you got Logan Webb at 60, but then like really you're kind of waiting until Dylan Cease at 80.
Absolutely.
And then like Framber Valdez at 95, like there's not a lot of straight volume horses anymore.
No, I was surprised by how light my workhorses category was on my rankings.
So to argue against myself, there is an argument to be made that you should just say, fuck it, I'm going to go get the best possible arms, right? Well, and if one of them implodes, I still got 4 other best possible arms on my board or on my team, and I'll make it work. And you just got to hope that you don't have 2 or 3 of them, die.
And because everyone's been dealing with that, right? That's been our big push-pull conversation at pitching that you and I have had for the last few years with regards to like the injury and all that. It's like, I understand the Glasnows and the Greenes and the Snells have this risk.
But Greene's still too risky for you, right? Or are you going to do that this year?
I've come around a bit to where the door's open. Remember last year I was pretty hard line out. I said those homers are going to come back with a vengeance and things are going to be problematic. I was right about half of it, but not the half that mattered. The homers did come back. He went from 0.7 to 1.3. The ERA went up 0.01. That's crazy. And that's awesome on his part because Hunter Greene found control. He went from 9% walk rate to 6%. So fewer men on bases, all of a sudden it's solo shots instead of 2 runs and 3 runs. And so he worked around it. But what if he doesn't this year? What if that control isn't real? So I am really torn on him. The bottom line is I have not drafted him anywhere yet, but I am not afraid to. Last year I was terrified. You couldn't get me to pay for Hunter Greene. This year I am more open to it just because he is such an electric talent. I think I would do what you said though, Justin. I would get my second guy either before or immediately after. I do want to create a little bit of a halo around him, and so it would have to be a concerted pitching team that I go for to get Greene. Joe, let's bring you in on Hunter Greene. He's very volatile. Justin and I have been very terrified of him pretty much his entire career. Where do you come out? Are you somebody who's a risk taker with him, or do you share the home run concerns, the Cincinnati concerns, the health concerns with Hunter Greene?
Yeah, I think I share all of them because last year, the command was good, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's why projections use 3 years, because what if the walk rate is back up to 9% this year? Giving up those home runs in that ballpark, like Cincinnati for how long, from the time I started playing fantasy pretty much until maybe a year or 2 ago, if the pitcher was in Cincinnati, you pretty much scratched him out. You wrote a red cross over his name, the same way if they were pitching in Coors. And now Hunter Greene is better than most of those pitchers that have been in Coors and in Great America in the last few years. But there is still that home run risk. There's still the injury risk. There's still the risk that maybe he starts walking double-digit guys because he's been 9, 9.6, 9.3. He seemed to unlock something last year. But, this is why we look back over the last couple of seasons. Maybe he doesn't maintain it. And I think that he is honestly the poster boy. We've talked about, the pairings. You need to pair him. Of all the guys, he is the guy that you need to back him up. Or he needs to be your SP2. If you're taking one of the aces and you take Hunter Greene as your second guy.
Yeah, if you're starting out like Skenes or Crochet and then you take Hunter Greene, I'm like, all right, fine.
Because even in 107 innings last year, he was like the SP 25 or so. So taking him in a spot where you don't need to rely on him for the volume, I think is what you need to do.
Yeah, again, and so there's avenues where I'm open to it this year, whereas last year I had blocked Hunter Greene off completely. So it is a little waffling where I'm saying, yeah, there's a situation, but at least the door's open. Last year I said, couldn't do it. All right, next 5 up here, and still plenty of questions. I didn't even write all the questions out for these guys because we know a bunch of them, just kind of off the dome. They are a little bit cheaper, but again, we're still here within our top 15 pitchers with question marks galore. Let's start with Cole Ragans, a guy I love and I'm fully ready to buy back in on, even after last year's flame out, because I think the talent is still just exquisite. He really just missed time. Justin, do we have any concerns with that health, that are pushing you away from Ragans, though? Are you staying away?
I'm not necessarily staying away, but I do have concerns with health. But like you said, all these guys do, right? Until we get to the next tier and we start talking about kind of the boring volume guys, all these guys have health concerns.
So let's talk about Ragans' talent, because what he did last year in the 62 innings, which is a very small sample, was drop a 38% K rate on folks with an 8% walk rate, which was actually a point better than the year before. Where
it's
he was
also
at
38% in spring right now. Now it's only 2 innings, but still.
Sure, but
he's coming right back to it.
Exactly.
And he's one of these guys that 38% is insane, but I think that could just be who he is.
30 plus is very much on the table. He's been at 29 the last 2 years for Ragans, and then 38 last year in the shortened season. 30 plus is very much on the table, and he has a $186 innings back in 2024. So we've seen him do it. Is he maybe one of the ace bargains here if you can overlook the immediate health concern with Ragans?
Honestly, I would rather do the Skenes or Skubal or Yamamoto Ragans gambit than I would with a guy like Hunter Greene. I just think the upside is the same and the downside is kind of the same, and I'm getting him cheaper. So I'm probably, this is one of the reasons I'm not going to do Hunter Greene, is because I'll just do, if I want to take a risk and have some fun, I'm going to go Cole Ragans. It's a better park to pitch in, and I think the pitcher.
For now.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. It's still going to be better than Cincy, folks.
But
that
he's
was just
also
tongue in cheek.
He's also put 186 innings together in a season. We have seen him actually do the volume thing. So I'm scared. I don't know how often I will, but I'm sure Cole Ragans will end up on one of my teams this year.
He already has on mine, and I will continue to get more shares because, I think I like him as one of my first aces that I'm open to drafting. I've been pretty pitching heavy early on in my very first 3-4 rounds, but Ragans is somebody I'm not afraid of. Joe, again, we saw the injury shortened season last year, but with the talent being so rich, and I will point out he did have a 4.67 ERA, but it was a 2.52 Sierra. The skills were saying he deserved way better. Is Ragans someone you're ready to dive back in on despite the shortened season last year?
Yeah, I think this is my flag plant pitcher for the year. I think it's Ragans. And there's a big risk that I'm taking there. But last year it was deGrom, so I guess this is kind of on brand for me. The injuries.
Injured studs. Yeah, you like them.
Injured studs, a little bit cheaper than usual. Ragans feels like a guy who, we get a couple more of these little spring outings, you're going to see him in the 3rd round and maybe even higher when people are doing main events.
You are
completely You're looking at every pitcher last year who threw at least 60 innings. He was first in strikeout minus walk rate. He was first in Sierra, and he was first in xFIP. His fastball velocity maintained at 95.3. Stuff was 109, pitching plus 107. The injury risk is there, but like we've said, it's there for fucking everybody. So might as well take a guy who, when he was out there last year, was on a per pitch, per inning basis, the best pitcher in baseball last year. I know I'm going to get in trouble for that, but he was highest strikeout minus walk rate, best Sierra. Like those are the bread and butter of what we look at.
30% strikeout minus walk rate that he had. That is so bananas for Ragans.
And it won't be that probably, but I think he can be something close to it. The one concern maybe is like he has one full season under his belt.
Right.
And the rest of them have been kind of washouts, relief pitcher season. So there is some volume risk. But the talent as the SP, 15 off the board, I think it's totally worth it.
Can I spin that too? The negative into a positive?
Go for
He's
it.
fresh. He hasn't used as many innings. He's got more gas in the tank, right? Like,
yeah.
I love him so much. I'm fully in on Ragans. I have not moved an inch off of him. I'm fully there. Let's go back to deGrom, Justin. We talked about it with Sale. Does the health move you off? Or does the age move you off? And it's like, no, unicorns are unicorns. And when they're awesome like this, I'm not going to move off. There was obviously a lot of consternation with deGrom. He had his hardcore believers. Joe and I were among them last year. And he had his detractors, which I don't think you were like a hardcore detractor. So I'm not putting you in that camp. But he did have people that were saying, no way, 37 years old with all this injury track record, I'm not doing it. And this is why he's such a good example, deGrom is, of how we know little about innings. 68, 92, 64, 30, 11, 173 at age 37, right? So like we do the best we can with the patterns and the 3-year averages and all that, but we don't know, and that's why you bet on the talent. But this one, even more so than Sale, Justin, feels like I cashed last year. I don't want to be caught holding the bag this year, so now I'm out. I've seen some people freely admit that they're doing that. They were all in last year, but now that they hit, they don't want to get caught this year. Do you feel that way about deGrom at all, that we have to be worried of the complete fall off, or is he just so good that when healthy, who gives a shit?
Yeah, no, I think he's just so good. And we saw him throw 172 last year, and he got the surgery, he got it fixed, he went through the rehab, he missed the time, and honestly, there's not really that much of a reason to think that he will get injured, right? I don't think he's at any more risk than any other pitcher. I'm betting on the health. I took him as my second ace behind Skubal in Barf, and I'm stoked by having those two guys.
As should be.
Another one of these guys that I'll probably pair with a safer ace. He'll for sure be in my queue when I come back around in the 4th round in my TGFBI draft. And Hunter Greene is still available, right? So and Cole Ragans is still available. So I love deGrom. I think he deserves to be kind of at the top of this tier to be honest.
Joe, I know I don't got to ask you about whether or not you like deGrom. You already talked about how last year he was a big flag plant for you. You said, give me the old man. I believe in him. I assume you're doubling down because he did nothing to dissuade you last year. If I can throw a little fly in the ointment, though, I will point out the 1-4 homer 9 and ask you if it gives you any pause. It didn't hurt him too much last year, but 1-4 is pretty high. How does that tickle your ear with deGrom?
Yeah, it's not what I want to see, the home run rate being there. It has periodically spiked in his career. 2017, I guess that was before he was like truly Jacob deGrom at that point, but he did have a 1.25 that year. In his 11 starts in 2022, which were really good, it was a 1.26 homer 9. And that ballpark, I think, will take away a lot of the worries there, generally speaking, being more of a pitcher park.
Great place to pitch.
The thing with deGrom is that I think we're still in that kind of Tommy John honeymoon phase. You generally, and I linked to an article last year in the bold prediction I did about deGrom. My bold prediction was that he was going to win the Cy Young, but there was a link there to an article about the Tommy John honeymoon where you generally get like 350 to 450 innings once you have the surgery where you're good to go and you're not really at a high risk of re-injury. And I think deGrom is also a lot smarter than he used to be. He's always been a brilliant pitcher, but he also didn't know how to control himself really. He would be throwing, he'd be sitting 99. And obviously, throwing 60% fastball, sitting 99. Yeah, it didn't work out for him.
It's great that he could do that, but it clearly put him in harm's way.
Absolutely. And now I think that, he said it before last season, which is part of the reason why I was in on deGrom, is because he said he was going to, take a couple notches off the fastball, and he did. Fastball was sitting 97. The slider, which had been 91, 92, was sitting at 90. So I think that he is more intelligent and still able to give you great innings, even if he's not quite that peak deGrom. And honestly, I'm of the opinion that peak deGrom might be the best pitcher who's like ever lived, or at least in a very, very, very short list. Like 2021 deGrom with a 42% strikeout minus walk rate and the .55 whip. Like he was a god. He's not going to be
the
that.
sickest runs ever, by the way. I
A
know it was
buddy in
only
my home
92
league,
innings, but like, come on, dude.
the guy in my home league took him 1-1 that year, and he thought he had struck gold. And even still, he pretty much did.
He kind of still did.
It was head to head though, so it
Oh, okay. So
a little bit.
He ate it a bit more than others. But just to derail you real quickly on that, do you remember where he finished in the player rater that year with 92 innings for deGrom?
Overall or among starting pitchers?
Among starters.
It was like probably top 20 still.
It was ninth. He was SP9 with 92 innings, 108 ERA, 055 whip. Anyway, sorry. So again, you're in on deGrom. You are not afraid of him.
Yeah, like I don't think he's going to be that deGrom, but if he could be a 28% strikeout rate where he's like a 22, 23 strikeout minus walk rate, that whip is still below 1, the ERA, like up until late in the season last year, deGrom was sitting on like a 2.2 ERA, and then he had back-to-back 5 earned run outings against the Angels in Seattle. But he could have been like a 2.3 ERA last year if it wasn't for a couple of blowups. So long story short, I've been rambling here. I'm in on deGrom. He's my SP10. I think we got at least one more year. But next year, that's when I'd probably, to your earlier point, probably take my foot off the gas a little bit.
And I think that that's fair because then it'll be 38. If we have another full season under his belt, it'll be like, okay, now maybe we let somebody else maybe deal with it. Yeah. All right, let's go over to Max Fried, Justin. And I feel like he's a little bit of the forgotten ace now with the Yankees. You talk about a Yankee tax. He is not experiencing that, I don't believe. He transitioned there last year, first year, no issues, by the way. And that's why I want to point out, because like we talk about the first year under a new deal and everything and how sometimes I fade guys like that. It's not because I think they're universally bad. It's usually so I can give them a chance to adjust. A lot of guys have troubles, but as you can see from Max Fried last year, it doesn't always go poorly. He had his best year ever. 195 innings, 17% strikeout minus walk, 286 ERA, and a 110 whip. What does he do for a New York encore, Justin? More of the same, or do some of his previous injury issues maybe bring up some concerns for you? He did spike the velo from 94 to 96 last year. Where do you come out on Fried? Because I actually like him as a pretty sneaky ace down here.
Honestly, I mean, after, spending a lot of his career with kind of like this injury risk kind of guy, for the last 5 years, he's thrown 165 innings or more.
Yep.
So at what
That's
point
why he's my number 7.
Yeah, I think we just wipe it away, and I do think he is safer than a lot of the guys we've been talking about here recently. So this is maybe a guy that I would pair with a deGrom, would pair with a Ragans, would pair with a Hunter Greene. If I
they
didn't
boost
want
his strikeouts up too. That actually is a really good combo fit there with Fried. Good call.
So I think. Yeah, and he gets the win potential of being a Yankee. Mm-hmm. Dude won 19 games last year. So,
That's awesome.
Just insane amount of value. In spite of the fact that he pitches in Yankee Stadium, because he's left-handed, it really neutralizes that short porch. I love Fried this year. And honestly, I could make the argument that he deserves to be in that, 6, 7, 8 range in starting pitcher.
Any major differences there that you see on Fried, Joe, before we move on to our next guy?
Scared the shit out of me several years ago on a podcast we were doing talking about Fried, and not specifically him, more so about the recurrence of a forearm injury once you've already had one. And he's had 2. And I think, we've been wrong. Eno and I collectively have been wrong about him pretty much every year. 2023, he missed, about
half the year.
But he's been good every time. Like he has a 3.03 ERA over more than 1,000 career innings. At a certain point, I have to admit, maybe I was wrong about it. But as he now is on the wrong side, well onto the wrong side of 30, he's now 32 years old. Could there be some wear and tear on that arm that brings back the forearm troubles from 23 and 24? Sure. Is he fully out of the woods now after 2 healthy seasons? I don't know. I might have him too low. I currently have him at 16, which feels a little bit too low. So I'll probably bump him up 1 or 2 spots, but he does still feel like a bit of an injury risk. Similarly to Woo, like just because you had 1 healthy season, is the problem now gone? I don't know.
No, I think that is fair, and I think that's part of why he gets pushed down for Max Fried. But it's a discount I'm willing to take. I think to use one of our favorite phrases from the 06-010, I think the hate's gone a little too far. And I know we're talking relative here because he is still pick 54 overall, so we're not saying he's some extreme discount. But for me, somebody who has him at 7, that means I would be taking him around pick 38, 39. And so that is a pretty big difference there. But I think you have valid concerns about the career-long health issues. And now that he's 32, and where you weigh those with the other guys as kind of preference. For me, I don't want to say overlook them. I minimize them a little bit after 2 full healthy seasons. That's
totally
where I'm at
fair.
with him.
Yeah,
Let's
totally
stay
fair.
in New York and back to Justin on Freddy Peralta. First year in a new park, not a brand new contract though. So I don't necessarily fade guys who get traded to a new situation unless it's inherently worse for them. But I am curious how you feel. Peralta going to go be the ace in a big spot now. I think he's got the juice to handle it. You never really know, but he doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to wilt under the New York pressure. I think he'll thrive under it. But where are we on Peralta, who has now really rounded himself into one of those secondary aces who, he's a $175. 166, 174, 177 the last 3 years. I don't think we need to be pushing for more than that because it's 30, 32, and 33 starts. He's a 5 and dive kind of guy with some 6s mixed in. Is that enough to be an ace again in New York? He outran his ERA indicators quite a bit last year, Justin. Where do you come out on Freddy Peralta this year?
I mean, he has been a 5 and dive, but will he be in New York? Like, is that the plan they're going to have for him? Like, I could see.
Should they push him? Do you believe they should push him?
Why not? At least see what you got in the dude. You just, gave up some real prospects for the guy, and he's going to be your opening day starter and kind of the ace of that, pretty deep, good rotation. So I like Peralta. Now, there's always the risk, like, that the homers become an issue again or the walks become an issue again. But even outside, if we're not counting the 2019 season, so why don't we just say since COVID, 2021, his worst ERA is 386. If that's the floor when you're getting like a 30% strikeout rate, like I'm okay with that. Like I'll eat that, right? We eat worse with Dylan Cease on occasion. So
right. Absolutely.
And he's moving to a better park for home runs. He's moving to a team that's going to be probably just as good offensively as the Brewers were. So he's going to have a lot of win potential. And unlike the Brewers, there are multiple bottom feeder teams in this division that he's going to face, multiple times. So
you talking about the Braves and the Phillies?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Please don't come at me. I didn't say that. Philly fans are kind of rabid, so Brave fans aren't, and they deserve what they get.
And even if they were rabid, they would just have to go on the IL like the rest of the team.
Exactly. No, but I mean, they get to face the Nats. They get to face the Marlins. Right. There's going to be a lot of win potential for Freddy Peralta. I think his ADP is too low. I'm honestly a little surprised it's where it is. I know that he doesn't come off as like this super exciting guy, but I mean, Freddy Peralta has had 3 straight seasons of he's had every single year of his career he's had a 27% strikeout rate or better every year.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 3 straight full seasons when you said that, because he has gone 30 plus those 3 years.
And he's made 30 turns in the rotation the last 3 years. I don't know why.
He's just been great.
He's kind of got this boring moniker, but I don't think he's boring at all. I think he's really, really good.
That's exactly what I think it is. And I think Fried carries it too. I could see myself doing a quote unquote boring New York double dip, and I don't think either of them are particularly boring. No. I really, really don't. Joe, Freddy Peralta's going to go be a Met there. Do you agree with Justin's rosy outlook, or do you share any concerns about the 30-year-old heading out there?
No, I don't really have much to add here. He's very consistent. The team context is good. I don't really have much here. I like Freddy
Where
Peralta.
We put the ERA? Sorry to interrupt you, but it was a 270 last year. That was a far cry from the last 3 years where he's been kind of an upper threes guy. And his ERA indicators suggested that he did outrun it. Does he go back to the mid threes, or with the better park, maybe, just having a better season if he can he bring it down to say, 320? Where are you putting his ERA projection loosely for Peralta?
I'd put it right at his career mark at 3.59.
Okay, so back up a bit, but not killing you or anything.
I think that's a fair recommendation. What would you guys take the over under on that 3.59?
I really like your number, but I'm gonna take a slight over. I'll say 365.
I just pulled up my projections, stand 345.
Okay, so we're right in we're talking a couple runs there so we're in agreement. Mid threes ERA, good whip, high win potential for about 170 innings. And maybe the Mets see him differently, because I went and looked this up when you said that, Justin, when you started talking about maybe he would go deeper. And I'm like, I don't know. Has he been known to just not be somebody who can handle it? And if you look at his times through, he doesn't seem to be somebody who falls off. Now, part of it could be that the Brewers knew when to get him out so that he didn't consistently face the third time through when he was struggling, but his third time through last year actually got better.
They just had a really good bullpen.
That's
right?
the thing too. They don't have to push him.
And they are also very careful with their starters, especially because they have guys like Brandon Woodruff. They've got these guys who have these concerns, right? So they're just going to protect a lot of them and be okay with kind of using that bullpen to protect them. So
and he's listed 6 feet, which means he's nowhere near that. He's probably like 5'8", and so he's a smaller guy.
No, did you see the thing about ABS with that?
No.
So with ABS now being a thing, they have to, in order to properly align the strike zone for ABS, they have to have exact measurements. So like Gavin Lux just
I did see that. Yes,
he's
yes,
3 inches lower.
I did see that.
Like he was 6'2" and now he's 5'11" or
and
something.
it proved
like
everything I said about these liars out here.
Yeah. So now we're actually going to get real heights and stuff from players. And it's hilarious.
Are they going to
every
remeasure
Red
the
Sox
pictures?
player? Every Red Sox player went down like an inch or two. I think maybe 1 or 2 went up, but like the whole team lost an inch or 2.
Like they had to do accurate measurements for everybody so they could have an accurate ABS strike zone. And now everybody's getting outed as lying about their height.
I love my short kings. If you're shorter, it's not inherently wrong. Just
says the guy who's like 6'10".
Listen, I know it's easy for me to say I'm a string bean piece of shit. I'm just saying.
How tall are you actually?
I'm 6'5".
Okay, yeah.
Holy shit.
I respect my short kings that own it, is what I'm saying.
I did a bit for like 3 years running where I would lie about your height. And every time
You kept going down, right?
No, I kept going up.
Oh, kept going up, that's right.
At one point, I told a podcast, I can't remember where it was, that you were like 7'8". Because it just kept going up to a point where it was like ridiculous.
You did tell me about that.
Yeah.
That's really funny. No, I'm a string bean. Listen, I know it's easy for me to say, and it is not easy out there for the.
So when you see pictures of me standing next to Paul, I am average normal height.
This is true.
Jason and Paul are the weirdos, and Eno for that matter.
Yeah, and I'm in the middle, and I'm right in the
middle. And you are perfectly sizable, both of you. Neither of you guys are short. And even if you were, it would not be a problem. Again, I'm not inherently roasting short kings. There's just something in sports that we know that if they're listed at 6, they're no. Same for Hollywood. It's even worse for Hollywood. Yeah. If an actor is listed at 6.
Kings. We had Joe Pisapia on last week.
Exactly.
We have against short
We're
people.
pro short king here. I put y'all in my pocket and away we go.
We need Bogman.
We do need Bogman. We need Bogman in the Welsh. Honestly,
actually, I just texted the Welsh the other day that we need to have them on. So
Joe, I think you got to be on that one.
Yeah,
I think that's got to be a 5-pack when we bring them on.
We'll definitely do reliever congressman then.
We'll each get 4
100%.
sentences in.
I'll just drive traffic to all 4 of you. I'll be Steve Nashing everybody and then interrupting you guys. All right, last guy. We won't actually talk about innings for once to the negative because it's Logan Webb. Our first guy that we get to talk positively about innings. In fact, we probably don't even need to say anything about innings specifically. That is the key driver here. He has led baseball for 2 of the last 3 years and the National League for all 3 of the last 3 years. He had a 192 the 4th year, which was 2022. He is the quintessential workhorse, Logan Webb is. But Justin, you know what he did last year that I don't think is getting anywhere near the credit it deserves because all anybody talks about is innings with him. He spiked his strikeout rate beautifully last year. Logan Webb ended up driving a 26% strikeout rate, which was up 5 points from the year before. And it did help, propel him to a huge season. He was really, really excellent last year because nobody was expecting 2 1/4 Ks from him, and he delivered. The tough part is that it only came with an 11% swinging strike rate, which is fine, but it's really stretching the edges of that 2 to 2.5 multiplication that you can do of a swinging strike rate for a strikeout rate. And I'm wondering how much of those gains do you think Webb can hold this year with the strikeouts?
I think he can hold them. I think he can hold them somewhat. I'm not going to bet on him being a 26% strikeout rate.
He's a career 23. You just dipping him down back to that or back to the 21 of 2024?
I think 2023 is probably right. Let me see. Look, I have him. I don't have strikeout percentage on my sheet, but I have him about a strikeout an inning. So, and you'll take that from Logan Webb.
Absolutely.
I have to point out he's got a 41% strikeout rate in spring.
How many innings, Justin?
5.
Okay.
17% swinging strike rate, baby. Let's go. It's what Logan
honestly, at least so far, that is really nasty.
Was it Jason that sent the text that was of like where they they like misread or like they misappropriated his miles per hour. Like it was like
when it was like 111.
Yeah,
The Statcast had Logan Webb throwing a pitch at 111.
Yeah, I think it was even 122 or something.
Like, or maybe it was even crazier, but it's like
it was something insane. It's all like it's Logan Webb season, baby.
He got a bionic arm. He's going to strike out 50% of his guys.
Gonna fall off and travel to the plate itself.
It would, yeah. It would absolutely go all the way. I got a different question for you, Joe, and it comes down to the BABIP because it was up at 346 last year, and Webb wasn't able to flex the strikeout gains into any sort of whip gains because a bunch of hits were going through. And I think the disappointing thing about that for me was when they added Adames to Chapman, I'm like, well, the left side of the infield is absolutely cooking. The problem is the right side was complete dog shit. And it's going to be again this year with Devers at first, which is actually, I'm indifferent on him, but Luis Arraez at second. So I wonder, do you have BABIP concerns, Joe, about Logan Webb given this defense? Or can the two guys on the left side scoop up enough that maybe the right side isn't going to kill us? Specifically Arraez at second.
I mean, if I could choose which side of the infield I'd rather have be strong, I'd prefer that the shortstop and third baseman be good.
Absolutely,
so we have that working for us. But Logan Webb, I mean, part of it is volume, but he allowed more hits than anybody in 2025. And in 2024, the only guy who allowed more hits than him was Patrick Corbin. And it is a volume thing, but it's also led to a 1-2-3 and a 1-2-4 whip the last couple of seasons. So the BABIP probably comes down a little bit because 346 is just really, really high. He's 316 for his career. Projections have him around 300, generally speaking. But I worry a little bit about what the whip is going to be like. The projections are not bad for the whip. They're like 1.3 to 1.7
I would take those.
Range.
Yeah, 1.13, 1.17. I would take those.
If we can get the projections, I would take it. But when you're also looking at a guy who is not going to run up the total of strikeouts you're going to get like maybe he gets 26 again. I would take the under on that. I think 23, maybe 24% strikeout rate. If I'm getting average strikeouts with not really, I mean, it probably shouldn't be an issue. All you get there, but being drafted as an SP1 guy can give you a 1.25 whip with 20% strikeout rate. That's where the concern is.
Yeah, I think that the whip is what scares me. And I don't know how much control guys have. He's a heavy ground ball guy, but how much control can he get those ground balls to go to the left side consistently to avoid Arraez at all costs? And is there a world where Arraez's defense is so bad that maybe he's sitting for Webb starts? I think maybe. Justin, do you know of anybody is Casey Schmidt a good defender? Would he be
Casey Schmidt is a very good defender.
So then maybe they just treat their ace well and they let him play second base during those starts.
I don't know that they're going to do that.
What about Fitzgerald? Is Fitzgerald done?
No, he's a dog shit defender.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be on the roster, so I wouldn't.
No, Fitzgerald, I would rather just keep Arraez at that point. But Arraez is so bad defensively at second base. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
so that's my concern. I do still have some of the whip concerns. Just because even with Adames and Chapman in tow last year, it was still pretty high, but not enough to move off of Webb. And I do like him as a pairing, like you said, with all those low inning guys, Justin, all those big low inning risks, like your Sale, Woo, and Greene. I like pairing Webb with them. It just
especially ones that have good whips, right?
Yep.
Like if you've got like, hey, this high risk guy, Logan Gilbert, right? Like he's a whip god, right? If you're going to take Logan Gilbert, go grab Logan Webb and just have a Logan team. I don't know who this team is, but this Yusa team is destroying my Giants.
Watch out for Yusa this year.
Yusa is so good.
What's the score?
It's 7-1. Roman Anthony just went bomb. Like it is just, they're. I mean, the Giants are pitching Blake Tidwell, so that tells you something. But
they're not even putting these in the box score list at ESPN. Come on, ESPN.
Where are they playing? Are they in San Fran?
Well, I mean, they're at San Francisco. San Francisco's Arizona Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you said the Dominican thing earlier, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, the Tigers are going to the Dominican to play the Dominican team tonight, which is really cool. That's a neat little trip. And I guess it's not that far since they're in Florida, right? Yeah. So they can kind of jump over there real quick. But anyway, any final words on Webb from either of y'all?
No, I mean, I think he's just about as stable as they come.
I think so. I think he's really good. Plan for a little bit worse whip from him that you can fix with your other guys, but other than that, he's good to go. So there we go. There's our top 15-ish. I didn't count them exactly, but it's already a lot of questions, and we're going to get more here as we go into the next few groups. And, you know, I talked about how I don't love these should be aces and drafting them. It's really the next couple groups that I don't see myself drafting a lot. That's where the real SP dead zone comes in. And again, shouts to Chris Tower for putting a name to it. He said he got it as inspiration from a guy named Ben Gretsch, I believe, who did a running back dead zone. And it's a part of the draft where you don't want the position. I think SP dead zone for the last several years, as I've talked about on the show, it gets written up in the forecaster. They are not a good return on investment. We'll talk about a bunch of those groups later this week. Joe, will you be with us on Thursday as well?
I should be. This week is ridiculous. This time of year is just a freaking shit show.
Totally hear that.
Should be able to.
Justin and I will 100% be back on Thursday. Joe should join us, and I'll talk to you gentlemen later.
Take it easy, guys.